Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Ursula von der Leyen is the new president of the European Commission. The German, whose term of office will last 5 years, has replaced Jean-Claude Juncker. There is hope that the change in the European Union's most important position will enable better relations between Warsaw and Brussels.
Ursula von der Leyen, the first woman in history to become the president of the European Commission. 383 MEPs voted for her, 327 were against, and 22 abstained from voting.
I feel so honored and I'm overwhelmed, and I thank you for the trust you placed in me. The trust you placed in me is confidence you placed in Europe. Your confidence in a united and a strong Europe, from east to west, from south to north. Your confidence in a Europe that is ready to fight for the future, rather than fighting against each other. Your confidence in a Europe that will take the big challenges of our times together. The task ahead of us humbles me.
As an executive power, von der Leyen will be responsible for trade negotiations, the economy and climate politics for 500 million Europeans. The Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, offered his congratulations to von der Leyen on Twitter. I would like to congratulate Mrs. von der Leyen for her new position as the President of the European Commission. Achieving this result and gaining this much trust was possible thanks to Law and Justice Party MEPs. I truly believe that our relations with the European Commission will be based on dialogue and partnership. According to Deputy Minister of National Affairs, choosing Ursula von der Leyen gives Poland the possibility of new relations with the European institutions. The Polish government hopes that the support given to von der Leyen will bring Poland favourable decisions regarding the selection of a new composition of the European Commission. Von der Leyen will assume her duties as the President of the European Commission on November 1st, although she will present the new European Commission team to the European Parliament earlier.
Political commentators are assuming that the opposition party, Civic Platform, will be the axis of the coalition to the rival, the ruling party, in the upcoming fall election. It is also yet to be announced which smaller parties would participate. They had promised the final decision today, but there has been no announcement thus far. Reporting from the Sejm, Aleksandra Zarzycka has more.
Everything was supposed to be known today because the highest body of the Civic Platform Party was to meet late last night. They have not met, and this important decision is being postponed until tomorrow. There are various speculations as to the reasons, from technical difficulties of some sort to the critique of the Polish People's Party that the leaders are listening to the wrong advisors and the party is being taken in the wrong direction. The Rzeczpospolita Daily published an election poll today looking at various coalition configurations, and it's becoming more and more clear that the Law and Justice Party is unbeatable. According to the poll, no matter what form the opposition takes, Law and Justice will get around 42% of the votes.
Whether Civic Platform decides to enter the Polish coalition we are building is still an open question. We do not know their decision. We welcome everyone. I think it is not realistic. We are going to run as the Polish People's Party. We invite everyone who shares our views, our program. We invite entrepreneurs and business people who make interesting projects that are good for Poland to join in. As of today, it seems that this kind of thinking is absent. Maybe in 2-3 weeks something will change, you never know. I'm not saying that the way the Polish People's Party present their views today will remain firm, but as you know in Polish politics, everything can change rapidly, and we still have 3 months to election day. If we allow only 2 parties to stay on the political scene, it will be dangerous for the well-being of democracy in Poland. Those 2 big parties rule interchangeably and they don't really hurt each other. This will not be good for Poland.
Mr. Schetyna is in a trap. He has a problem because they don't have any takers to join them, and the Polish People's Party is trying to regain their course after being misdirected in the EU coalition in the May elections. It does not matter if the opposition will form 1, 2 or 3 blocks. It is obvious by now that the Law and Justice Party will be the most most likely winner in the fall parliamentary elections as the opposition continues their soap opera-style moves to regroup. The Civic Platform Party have given yet another date for the announcement of their decisions, 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Today, the deputies debated the government bill for people with disabilities. The project provides a benefit of 500 zloty for around 500,000 people. The Polish Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, appealed to members of parliament to support the adoption of this bill and referred to it as the manifestation of a conscious democracy.
Support for the disabled cannot just mean an envelope on a parking space splattered in blue paint. Blue paint on concrete is not enough. These envelopes, which we will provide under the government bill, giving 500 zlotys per month to the handicapped for those who suffer the most, is a fundamental change in the paradigm of the country, providing help for those who need it. This project, ladies and gentlemen, is going to encompass around 500,000 people. These numbers will probably grow in the future, but for this moment it is 500,000. In the first phase we are going to consider 300,000, however the adjudication process is going to incorporate more and more of our fellow citizens who deserve a helping hand from their country. Democracy must also be conscientious.
The chairman of the Polish Customs Workers Union, Sławomir Siwy, has given a deposition in front of the Parliamentary Commission on VAT fraud, incriminating the former Civic Platform and Polish People's Party coalition government. Siwy told the Commission that his union was informing the government about criminal activity taking place at the Polish borders, but their warnings fell on deaf ears.
W bardzo krytycznych słowach mówił o...
Sławomir Siwy spoke very critically about the previous government. He spoke about a lack of support and mentioned Minister Kapica numerous times as a person who did not listen to their warnings. Siwy cited very detailed methods of fraud, which means they were aware of the activities happening at the border. However, he also stated that they shared that information with all the notable state institutions, all the notable people in the country, so they cannot say that the people in power were unaware of the problems concerning contaminated alcohol, fuel and cigarettes. The figures mentioned were very significant.
...instytucjami w państwie.
Zarzucano im, że hańbi...
He was accused of dishonoring the dignity of a customs officer, much like many other officers. The press was speaking about this, but now we have a smoking gun. This really happened. Chairman Siwy confirmed that he and other officers were in fact forbidden from controlling the materials that were crossing the border. Minister Kapica is saying that there were 4,000 inspections of tankers per year. Well, now we have 20,000 of these per month.
Jest ich 20,000 miesięcznie.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the temperatures will be from 8 degrees in Poznań and up to 13 degrees in Gdańsk. The air pressure will be 1008 hectopascals. Tomorrow, during the day, the temperatures will be higher. The warmest place will be Zielona Góra with up to 27 degrees Celsius and the coldest area will be seen in Lublin with 20 degrees. Thunderstorms are expected in Białystok tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight we'll talk about the country and opportunities of the country that is out of the scope, really, from the point of view of Western Europe, the United States, and even Poland. Few people realize that this is a country that is in Europe, in very attractive geographically and culturally region. The region are Balkans, and the country is Albania. Jakub Bączek, a specialist of this country, will tell us a few words more about how can we What can we find there? How can we benefit? How can we make business in Albania? So let's us start from the description. The post-communist country, they've built these bunkers all over the place, fearing the invasion. Who knows who can invade Albania? The bunkers are there still?
They are still there, but there are not so many as we believe in our stereotypes, I guess. So this is a small country, but I really like it. Only 3 million people there, but I really like it because it's very open for tourism, very open for Polish people, and I believe this country will have a big development in these years which are coming.
They are in the moment when everything is cheap, when everything is open, and they are hungry for moving up the ladder.
Yes, I also believe that they have a lot of aspirations to be in European Union because they are not yet. So these aspirations, these motivations are, I think, very positive and optimistic to believe that this country is in progress and it will be faster and faster progress in future, I guess.
Albania is a country outside of the European Union. That means they don't have a euro, and it's hard to get there because there is no cheap flights.
There are cheap flights to Corfu, to a Greek island, and it's very close to Saranda, very beautiful city on the coast in Albania. I would say that this is like Polish Sopot. Saranda is like Albanian Sopot, I would say. So you can fly with cheap airlines to Corfu, and you can use a boat, like a taxi, to get to Saranda in 45 minutes. So it's not so hard as people think. And of course there are some connections to Tirana, to the capital of the country.
And obviously tourist locations, because the Albania has a fantastic climate, great sea coast.
And very clean sea, which is nice.
Right, because they are not very developed industrially. And nice people.
Very nice people, very open, very friendly, and I believe that cities like Saranda, like Durrës, like Vlora, they are also very open, and you can find there places which are not crowded, which are cheap, and also for the investors, this is very good idea to invest in real estates there, because it's still quite cheap.
First of all, how about the languages? I don't speak Shepetari, so how can I get along?
Many of them, they speak Italian. I was quite surprised about that, but I realized that they have also Italian TV, Italian television.
For 100 years it was.
They were connected. Let's say they are neighbors, maybe not exactly, because there are a sea between those two countries, Adriatic and Ionian Sea. But they say they speak Italian, not always English, but, you know, you can sometimes use body language. They are so open that sometimes it's enough.
Okay, you mentioned the real estate business, because in places like that, the developers are saying we have a fantastic piece of property that value can only climb.
Yes. And I also believe that, and I also invest in Albania. I stopped to invest in Polish real estate, and I started to invest my money and money of my investors in Albania. We really believe that if the progress will happen, and we cross our fingers for this progress, our real estate will be much and much higher in the prices, of course.
Right. You are looking at the rental market, at the residential market, at the holiday market.
Yeah, all of them.
Pensioners.
Most of my flats are rented to the tourists, mostly from Poland, and we have it on Booking, we have it on Airbnb, we have it also on our webpage, and many people goes there. And what is very interesting for me, most of them when they come back, they say that they had a lot of negative stereotypes about Albania, but now they are sure that they will recommend this country for the families with children, for everybody, because they were positively surprised about Albania and the culture.
When you are investing, you're looking for a location near the sea?
Yes. This is very important, to see the sea from your balcony or from your terrace, because it's much easier to rent this
It should
flat.
be close enough that no one else will build the
hopefully
building in front of
on your
precious
balcony.
location.
Yes, hopefully. So it's important to choose to pick the first line next to the sea. It's important.
Okay, so this is one thing. Another, the construction business is kind of simple because you need to, first of all, have real estate, then work and materials. And
Yes.
are the prices of these things similar to the prices in Poland or lower?
Cheaper. They are lower. Yeah, they are lower. And we believe that the situation will be similar to Bulgaria or Croatia, that 10 years ago it was quite cheap. Now it's not cheap anymore. So in Albania is now a cheap time, let's say, and investing in Albania, it's a really good investment, and I believe it's also a good strategy, because if they will come to European Union, if they will build more airports, if they will be more touristic, let's say touristic, that more tourists will come to Albania, it means that the real estates will go higher.
Okay, so we'll see.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. Jakub Bączek is investing in Albania and is recommending that strategy to your own business partners.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much for this insight. That's it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Thank you.
Welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow in Poland we are expecting higher temperatures, so it looks like summer is back. 23 degrees in Warsaw and Łódź and the minimum of 20 in Lublin and Olsztyn. Tomorrow will be a sunny day, but clouds will be appearing as well. In Europe on Thursday the warmest region will be Madrid with up to 34 degrees Celsius and a lot of sun. Also in the north we will see warmer weather up to 22 degrees in Stockholm. Tomorrow our continent will be sunny. Good night.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I'm John Carter.
And I'm Paulina Odrstein, and today we're exploring the museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz in Podkowa Leśna.
They are one of Poland's greatest literary couples, so come and join us as we find out more about this literary couple.
Stawisko is the name which Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz gave to the estate they received as a wedding gift from Anna's father, Stanisław Wilhelm Lilpop, in 1920. In 1928, a traditional Polish manor house was built there. For over 50 years, it was their home and maintained its character as a literary and artistic center. Many people fell under the spell of its picturesque setting near beautiful woods, its tranquility, and indeed the unique atmosphere of the house itself. Many of the writer's best-known works were written there. During World War II, Stawisko became a place in which many refugees from Warsaw found shelter. The Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz was established there after the writer's death, in accordance with his will.
Lilpop was a maiden name of Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's wife, is that correct?
Yes.
Did all of this that we can see here in the museum belong to Mrs. and Mr. Iwaszkiewicz? Or did some of the exhibits get the museum itself?
Jesteśmy wyjątkowym muzeum, ponieważ
Our museum is special because every exhibit is authentic. Anna died first during Christmas in December 1979. He died in 1980, 3 months after her death. He couldn't cope with grief. He went to France with his daughter Teresa for a couple of weeks, then came back to Warsaw where he died in the hospital. We keep this house the way it looked when they lived, and we're trying to keep it that way. Of course, we renovate it and modernize it, but the furnishing is 100% authentic. So the dining room, the living room and other rooms have the authentic furnitures.
w szpitalu w Warszawie. I ten dom, tak jak został zachowany za życia gospodarzy, taki, w jakim on został w stanie, takim staramy się utrzymać. Oczywiście robimy remonty.
I feel like I should say a few words about the house, because we started to talk about the Lilpop family and the furnishing. The house was built in 1928. It was designed by Stanisław Gącikiewicz, who was a very popular architect at that time. Gącikiewicz helped with rebuilding of the Warsaw Royal Castle.
W ogóle budowy domu. Dom został...
Stanisław Wilhelm Lilpop, the father-in-law of Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz, chose him as a designer. So once again, the house was built in 1928. We celebrated the 19th anniversary of the house last year. The house was built for his daughter and her husband. Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz got married in 1922 in the church in Brywinów.
Domu, czyli Stanisława Wilhelma Lilpopa, teścia Jarosława Iwaszkiewicza. Ten dom został wybudowany w 28 roku.
They lived in the Lilpop family's apartment on the Smolna Street in Warsaw at first, but they spent the summer in Podkowa Leśna. They had a small manor house called Aida. It's still there, very well preserved. It's a private property now. So they lived there during summer, but they built a house here in 1928. As I said, Anna's father was the founder of the house. He was the one who furnished it.
Natomiast tutaj budowany był dom, który do użytku został oddany w 28 roku. I on w dużej części...
He took the furniture from his Warsaw apartment, including the secretary desk from the 18th century, and chests of drawers decorated with the ivory, the Gdańsk closet and the table. All this furniture and collection of paintings came from the Warsaw apartment. Anna's grandfather, Stanisław Lilpop, was a very rich man. He was an industryman and an art collector. He collected the Polish paintings from the first half of the 19th century, including Suchodolski and Franciszek Kostrzewski paintings. You can see these paintings in our museum.
W połowy XIX wieku obrazy Suchodolskiego, Franciszka Kostrzewskiego.
So the house was built by Mr. Lilpop. Some people say that he was hunting and dividing large farms into smaller ones in order to sell them, but it's not entirely true. The Lilpop family has an Austrian roots. They first came to Warsaw in the 18th century. At first, the members of the family were the watchmakers. They got richer and richer pretty fast. That's why they had druggists, doctors and lawyers in their family later on.
Lekarze, prawnicy. Stanisław Wilhelm pochodzi...
Stanisław Wilhelm comes from the Stanisław Lilpop's family. He was also a construction engineer. Agricultural machinery designed by him turned out to be very useful. It was thanks to him that the family became rich. He co-founded the Lilpop Rau in Lowerstein engineering company.
Zamożność. Mogę tylko powiedzieć, że w którymś momencie Anna Lilpop była zaręczona z Krzysztofem Radziwiłłem.
This was the time of industrial development, so the family was really rich. There was a moment when Anna Lilpop was engaged with Krzysztof Radziwiłł, but she married poor but promising writer Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz.
Więc to była bardzo zamożna warszawska rodzina.
The house has retained its original architecture and now shows the life and work of people who lived there. The museum possesses several valuable collections. The archives hold the majority of Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's manuscripts, which includes books collected by Iwaszkiewicz for many years, as well as some which belonged to his father. The photographic archive contains over 100,000 items from different periods, including those from an African safari in 1910. The museum also possesses an interesting musical archive with notes and musical manuscripts. In addition, the house contains a fine collection of Polish paintings from 19th and 20th century, as well as valuable pieces of furniture, works of art and objects of everyday use. Their interiors have maintained their original character. The house gives the impression that its tenants are only temporarily absent. As in the past, the rooms are filled with literature, music and art. Each year, many chamber music concerts, literary meetings and exhibitions take place in Stawisko.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. On June 28th this year, Poland celebrated the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Versailles Treaty. The Versailles Treaty forced Germany to allow a Polish state to be reborn, as well as respecting its western border. An accomplishment largely owed to the famous pianist Ignacy Paderewski. Today we will be speaking to the historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka about the background, the implementation, and the importance of the Versailles Treaty. Today I would like to talk a little bit about the Paris Peace Conference and the Versailles Treaty. I was wondering if we go all the way to the beginning, before the First World War, did the Poles ever believe that there were a war that would give them independence?
No, jeśli powiem, że Polski przed
If I say that before the First World War there was no Poland, it is obvious for the people who know history. However, you have to ask yourself the question of how non-existent Poland was. There were three ways of Polish non-existence, one for each of the partitioned areas. We did not exist the most in the Prussian partition. This annexation eliminated Poles from political and economic life. However, let us remember that Germany was a state of law. If a Pole owned a factory or other goods, those could not be taken away. He was protected in this respect. In this regard, the situation was worse in the Russian partition, where every Pole could be taken away at any time, for example from this park, and deported to Siberia. There he would have to wait 5 years until he was allowed to return home. These were the standards. Nevertheless, the Russian partition was characterized by a separate territory, sometimes called the Kingdom of Poland, in the area of the Russian Empire. There were several such countries. There was Finland as their Grand Duchy, Georgia as a kingdom, but those were only titles. Even the name of Poland was attempted to be crossed out by the Tsar, giving Poland a name that was offensive to Poles, namely Przywiślański Kraj, which stood for the land located on the Vistula River. Country without history, purely geographical state. A completely different situation prevailed in the Austrian partition. Austria, after a few major disasters, has transformed from within, as the saying goes, from a caterpillar into a butterfly, and has become the most democratic state. Only Switzerland was possibly better in Europe in this regard. They introduced the so-called balance of nationalities. The Austrian Empire was an empire based on loyalty to the long-standing Habsburg dynasty, has already been in power for over 800 years at that point. Depending on the recognition of the reign of this dynasty, a given nation received certain freedoms. National and state duality were introduced, separating this monarchy into Austrian and Hungarian parts. Smaller nations were subordinate to Hungary and Austria. Poles were one of such nations, and they lived in the southern Polish territories, then called Galicia. There were also Czechs, former Ukrainians, but it were the Poles who ruled in Galicia. The reason for this was that they were nobles and intelligence. Poles occupied almost all professions related to education. Many Galician Jews considered themselves to be Poles because they were born in Lviv, Krakow, or other Polish cities. Finally, it can be said that Poles co-ruled with the Austrian monarchy, and so you can say that the situation of Poles was very strongly diversified. It varied from almost full autonomy, where only the Minister of Foreign Affairs was missing, who will later be replaced by Roman Dmowski, and the Minister of War, which Piłsudski was to become unofficially, until the full denouncement of Poles in the Prussian partition, where Poles had to prove that they were not Polish-speaking Germans.
Udowadniać, że nie są polskojęzycznymi Niemcami.
Poland had been partitioned for 123 years at the time of the outbreak of the First World War. The three partitioning powers had fought on the same side against France in the Napoleonic Wars and were during the 19th century safekeepers of the European order created at the Vienna Congress in 1815. Next up, we will ask Dr. Jabłonka about the reasons behind Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia going to war with each other in 1914. So what are the main reasons for the three partitioning powers in Poland to go to war with each other in the year of 1914?
bardzo prosty. Mianowicie Imperium Rosyjskie.
It was very simple. Apart from this imperial ideology, the Russian Empire was cultivating their so-called Pan-Slavism, or an attempt to subjugate all the Slavs of Europe to the Tsardom of Russia. The Russians were considered the most numerous Slavic nation, which put them in a privileged position to command over smaller Slavic nations. Those nations first butted heads in the Balkans, where a war broke out over the distribution of the lands of Turkey, which ruled the Balkans since the fall of Constantinople. At this point, the Austrian Empire faced the Russian Empire in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was there that the first shots were fired in Sarajevo on 28th of June 1914. However, they were not a direct cause of the First World War. After a month, the Austro-Hungarian monarchy declared war on Siberia, as they could not come to an agreement with regards to the search for the perpetrators of the murder of Archduke Ferdinand. However, when it comes to an official beginning of the war, we do not recognize the beginning of the Balkan War between Austria and Serbia, but the declaration of war on the Russian Empire by Germany, who sided with Serbia. It is Germany who was responsible for the outbreak of the First World War. On August 1st, Germany declared war on Russia, on August 3rd they declared war on France, and the next day, on August 4th, Germany attacked Belgium, which is when the United Kingdom declared war on them. Within 1 week, the greatest powers of the world at the time were at war. Very quickly, Europe was ploughed up by trenches. The latest military inventions were promptly used, such as a machine rifle. One such rifle was able to kill several hundred people in one day. Combat gases, which were first used on the Eastern Front on the Bzura River near Bolimów and later on the Western Front in Belgium at Ypres, hence the Polish name for the gas, Iperit, known to English-speaking people as mustard gas. Finally, tanks that were able to pass despite being shot at, planes, submarines. This made the war not only worldwide, because battles took place even in America, even in the Falkland Islands or in Chile, but it also made it a total war, the aim of which was to completely destroy the enemy. There were no intermediate wars anymore, time of peaceful wars or entertainment wars, after which peace was made and everyone was seated at one table, ended. An abyss began here, and it ended in tragedy. The Spanish fever should be added to this tragedy, which killed more people than were killed during the war, estimated at about 20 million lives.
Do około 20 milionów istnień.
As we have seen today, the Versailles Treaty was crucial for Poland to reappear on the map after 123 years of partition by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. The Polish delegation to Paris had to work hard to convince the great powers to draft a treaty that's favorable to Poland. It was made possible by the excellent cooperation between the three fathers of Polish independence, Piłsudski, Dmowski, Paderewski, showing just how much can be done by working together. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. This next series of episodes will take you to Konstantin, just south of Warsaw. It's about 20 kilometers from the Palace of Culture in the center of Warsaw. Konstantin is famous as a spa town. It was started about 120 years ago, and people still go there on a regular basis to take the waters. We'll also stop off and have a conversation and a meal with Nick Richardson at the Park Cafe and Restaurant. This is one of the fine outdoor eating experiences you can have in the whole area of Warsaw. The Kolczynski family always makes everyone feel welcome. So enjoy the weather, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. Stay tuned for Poland Daily Travel in the beautiful garden suburb of Konstantin, outside of Warsaw. We sure do appreciate you watching. If you really like what you're seeing, why not subscribe? It only takes you just a second. It's a small moment for you, and it means a lot to us. So keep watching Poland Daily Travel. Tell your friends. We'll see you next time. This is Will signing off.
Well, welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. We are in the spa in the middle of the park in Konstantin. I promised that we would get there, and in fact,
we're here.
After Stefan Jaromski, we came here.
We did.
Yeah, that was a nice introduction. Because Mr. Jaromski, the writer that we talked about in the last segment, was coming here for the waters, and so do a lot of people. As you can see, there's this misty, actually, if you look down there, you can see the mist coming right out. And it's very special. Well, anyway, I picked up the fellow when we were coming in, gave me this. Yeah. This is an inhalatorium.
An inhalatorium. So we inhale.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, we inhale the water vapor.
Yeah, we're supposed to just sit here. It has a very a healthful saline content. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
That means it's got salt in it.
It's got salt in it?
Yeah.
Really? So you put it on our steak?
Well, no, I think. Well, I don't think
No?
this is the water we would put on our steak.
Now you wouldn't like pour some of this water on your steak.
You might fill your bath with it and dive in.
You'll fill your bath with it because it would be good for your joints and your muscles,
exactly.
right?
Seawater is. Cool seawater is generally good for your muscles.
Seawater is very good for you, yes,
Yeah.
and it's a little more buoyant than regular water, isn't it? Yeah. It's powered by a brine curative water containing 7.5% minerals. It says right here.
Yeah, well,
And that's how I know it's true.
good that you learned to read, isn't it?
Yeah, it says. I don't know anything about this place. I'm no spa expert, I can tell you that.
No,
Yeah.
clearly not.
Not at all.
Not even a little
Nobody
bit.
said I was. Not even a little bit, right?
No.
It has prophylactic recommendations.
Oh, right.
I'm not sure that we should be using that word in
Well, it
mixed
really
company.
means preventative.
It does?
Yeah.
Oh, nowadays everything goes. Prophylactic. Everybody's, that's the kind of world we live in. It says chronic and remittent inflammatory conditions of the respiratory system. So if we have something wrong, if we have tuberculosis, we come here and we sit here.
We feel much better.
Actually, I feel better. I don't have tuberculosis. Not yet.
And you're not going to get it after this.
No, I don't.
God willing.
It's funny because it has these kind of weird sticks or something sticking out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's very odd. It's good for neurosis. That'd be good for you.
Thank you.
Neurosis. Arterial hypertension.
Yeah.
You got hypertension?
I don't think so, actually.
I don't think I do either.
No.
I didn't
I
have
think
it.
I'd have probably known, wouldn't I? If I'd
Last
had it.
time I checked, I didn't have it. But,
No, I don't have really. I'm actually okay generally. I've been
but
very
that was
lucky.
only yesterday. I didn't check today.
Well,
Yeah. It could be happening. You never know. The conditions of the city. It's good for the conditions of the pollution.
Yep, I can see that.
It clears out your lungs. I'm going to come here. I need to come here. We should come here once a week or
I
something.
think
And just sit here. Look, we could just sit here and go. Yeah, and if you had the Buddhist thing going, you could sit here and go Om and breathe in the
lovely
lovely saline content or whatever it is, the 7.5% minerals. And it's also if you're smoking. Now, have you quit smoking?
I never even started smoking.
No.
No, I never smoked.
No,
Not
you
with
never
my
started.
parents. I was never
So you
exposed
quit,
to it.
in effect.
Well, no, I didn't start.
Okay, but you're a non-smoker. That's the point,
Yes,
right?
I am a
You are
non-smoker.
now a non-smoker.
I always was a non-smoker.
Oh, okay. You're now a non-smoker.
I always
Yeah.
was a non-smoker. It's not a question
Okay.
of now.
All right, don't get excited. Don't get excited. Also, it's good for high body temperature or a chronic failure of the coronary vessels, whatever that means. It's not. Doesn't sound good.
No.
It's blood pressure, heart, right?
Heart, yeah.
If you've had a recent heart attack, if you've got cancer, and this is good for everything.
Well, yeah, it seems to be a pretty universal cure.
I think. Oh yeah. Here's the important part. Now, I'm not suggesting we have to do this on camera, but it says strip off completely nude and stand on one foot.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think we should do that though.
Some people are getting pretty close, actually.
Yeah, I noticed
the corner of my eye.
Some people are stripping off more than would seem prudent.
Exactly.
Wouldn't be prudent. Wouldn't be prudent.
Showing rather more than we'd
Wouldn't
hoped for.
make sense. Wouldn't make sense. George Bush Sr. That was.
The late George Bush Sr.
Yeah. Wouldn't be prudent. And so this is called the graduation tower. I don't know why they call it graduation. But at any rate, you're supposed to get near the sprayer for 15 minutes, right? So we can go get in the spray for 15 minutes, but not 1 minute longer. How about that? And we can sit here for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, or even a whole day, and it's good for us. How about that? What do you think, Nicholas? Aren't you glad I brought you here?
I am really thrilled to be here.
Aren't you thrilled to be here?
I am.
Poland Daily, we do thrilling things. We're going to lie back here. We got another maybe 3 or 4 hours. We're just going to sit here. And then we're going to stand at this sprayer for only 15 minutes because we don't want to break the rules after the nice people let us come in here. So stick with us. Poland Daily, more excitement to come from the beautiful spa town of
Konstantin.
Yezhnirova. Yezhnirova? Yezhnirona.
That's how I say. I always.
I Verona. There was a song, wasn't it? I Sharona.
Yes.
That song. Yeah.
I love your ability to deviate from your chosen path.
I know. I was once called discursive by one of my editors. I never know what that meant. I said I don't use curse words.
Yes.
I wrote clean copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, you should.
I used to clean it with bromide.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Nicely polished prose.
Yes. That's it. Poland Daily, stick with us. We'll be right back with more exciting stuff from Konstantin. I'm just going to sit back and
enjoy the fresh air.
I'm breathing in this stuff, baby. Oh, it's nice.
It is very nice. It's surprisingly nice.
It's relaxing, isn't it? And it doesn't cost much either. It's 12 zlotys.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun for $3.
Yep.
Bring the whole family, folks.
Yep. Wear your bathing costume.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.